Then we move on to specification number 6, which requires us to describe food webs as networks of interconnected food chains and construct and interpret them. Now, let's understand what a food web is. A food web is a network of interconnected food chains that shows all the feeding relationships within an ecosystem. Unlike a single food chain, which follows one pathway of energy transfer, a food web shows that most organisms feed on more than one type of organism and may also be eaten by several different predators. Because of this, food webs provide a much more realistic picture of how organisms interact in nature. A food web demonstrates how energy flows through an ecosystem along multiple pathways. It also highlights the interdependence of organisms, showing that the survival of one species often depends on many others. By studying a food web, we can predict how changes in one population may affect the rest of the ecosystem. For example, if the number of earthworms decreases, fewer earthworms will feed on plant material, so grass populations may increase. At the same time, animals such as frogs and mice that rely on earthworms for food may decline because their food source becomes limited. Sparrows may also be affected, although they may survive by switching to another food source such as caterpillars. In the same way, human activities such as overhunting, habitat destruction, or introducing non-native species can disturb food webs and cause long-term changes in population sizes and the flow of energy within an ecosystem. Now, let's interpret the first food web shown in the diagram. As you can see, the food web begins with grass, which is the producer. Grass captures energy from the sun through photosynthesis and forms the base of the entire food web. The primary consumers, including the rabbit, earthworm, and caterpillar, obtain their energy by feeding on the grass. The energy is then transferred to secondary consumers. In this food web, the frog feeds on earthworms, the mouse also feeds on earthworms, and the sparrow feeds on caterpillars. Finally, the tertiary consumers or top predators are the fox and the hawk. The fox feeds on rabbits and frogs, while the hawk feeds on frogs, mice, and sparrows. Notice that the arrows always point from the organism being eaten to the organism that eats it. This shows the direction of energy transfer through the ecosystem. The diagram also demonstrates that some organisms, such as the frog, are eaten by more than one predator. This overlap illustrates the interconnected nature of food webs and shows how energy can move through several different pathways. Now, let's look at the second food web. This diagram also represents a food web, showing the complex feeding relationships among different organisms in an ecosystem. It includes producers, such as green plants, which manufacture their own food using sunlight, and a variety of consumers, including grasshoppers, spiders, birds, and hawks. Instead of following a single pathway, the diagram shows many interconnected food chains because most organisms have more than one food source and may also be prey for multiple predators. Once again, the arrows indicate the direction of energy flow, pointing from the organism being eaten to the organism that consumes it. This illustrates that energy enters the ecosystem through producers and is transferred through different consumers along several interconnected pathways. Therefore, food webs provide a more complete and realistic representation of feeding relationships and energy flow than individual food chains.